Welcome to episode 20 of the LAN Partners Podcast. Big episode for us, guys. Big milestone episode. 20 episodes in the books. So we got a pretty action-packed episode today. We're going to obviously give a Madden update, talk about our Madden League a little bit. We're going to go around the horn and talk about the games that we've been playing, and it's been quite a few games this last month. We're going to give a review on Diablo 3. It's an all-play, so all of us will be talking about that. Our discussion for today is how important is graphics, a couple news stories, and our list for the day is top 3 PC exclusive games. So we are just 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies who love to game. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. Please download the Podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Wednesday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or please just leave a comment. All those links are down below for our YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that. Also, check out our LAN Partner Twitch page. We've been uploading a lot of gameplay videos. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, let's start with Madden. I have something to say about Madden. Dave
yes,
knows where I'm going with this. So in our Madden League, all year, Dave's been the heavy favorite to win the Super Bowl, and we kept telling Dave how good he is at Madden. He's so good, and he kept on getting upset and saying, I'm not very good, guys. I'm not very good. Guys. And, okay, Dave, you're not good, but whatever. You'll beat us all by 20-plus points. Well, it turns out that he's not good because me and him, we faced off in Madden for our Week 5, Week 6 matchup. So it was Bengals and Colts. Big game, big AFC game. And the Bengals, would be me, came out on top in overtime in the closing seconds. So just a quick recap on the game. I went up by a touchdown, or maybe it was a field goal or a touchdown before the end of the fourth quarter. Dave went down the field in 40 seconds, tied it up, sent the game to overtime. Dave then got the ball to start overtime. He went down the field, kicked a field goal, so as you know, overtime rules apply that the other team...
That's my better judgment. I knew I should have gone for that one.
So as overtime rules apply, that you have to, the next team goes downfield, they either have to tie it up again or score a touchdown to win. And I went downfield, Andy Dalton snuck it in for a QB sneak touchdown, Bengals victory. So it was a nerve-wracking game, but I came out on top, so I'm just going to say sorry, Dave, for telling you were too good. And you were unbeatable.
You know what? It takes a real man to admit when he's wrong, and I respect you for that.
But
he goes, but hold on, wait.
But
you can't apologize and say but.
But just before we started recording, Dave beat the Texans, which I got absolutely demolished by the Texans. So you make the judge of who's better. You make the judge of who's better.
I won that one by the skin of my teeth, though. It was a 35-34 victory, and it came down to a final drive again.
Oh yeah, because my overtime victory over you was so decisive that I had to either win it or lose it.
I feel like
and it continues. It continues. We've solved nothing.
Dave, that's it. You're the best.
So before we get too crazy, let's just get a quick standings update. I'm on top, AFC North, sitting at 5-2. Dave, where are you at with yours?
I'm second place in the AFC South, and Texans are still ahead of me. They're 6-2. I'm 6-3.
So it's coming down to it. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good stretch finish. Let's go ahead and get into our Around the Horn, where we talk about all the different games we've been playing over the last month. We did Around the Horn last month. We do this every 4 or 5 episodes. So let's go ahead and get it started. Matt, what have you been playing?
I've been playing quite a bit, actually. I picked up the Uncharted DLC, The Lost Legacy, which I actually just finished last night. Don't have... Well, I did give it a score, but I'll wait until we do a review on that. But I absolutely love the game. It only took me about, I think, 7 to 8 hours, and I did a lot. I did most of what I thought you could do in the game. So it is a shorter game, but that's what we expected because it was kind of advertised as DLC. I picked up Destiny 2 on PS4 because, long story short, I got lucky at GameStop. forgot I had a bunch of those player rewards points, and I actually got to pick up the game for free. So couldn't pass that up. That game's really fun. If you like Destiny 1, definitely pick up 2. NBA 2K18 I got on my Nintendo Switch, which this is the first game I think that was really kind of testing what the hardware was capable of, since this game is also available on Xbox One and PS4. So the game runs pretty well. I know it's only 30 frames per second on Switch compared to 60 on the PS4 and Xbox One, but the game ran good enough, I felt like. For me, it was still enjoyable. The game still looks pretty good on the Switch, and then I just love being able to have that mobility and take that with me wherever I go. And then the last game I've been playing is Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is also on the Switch, which, if anyone's ever played a game like XCOM, it's kind of that grid, turn-based strategy type style game, and it's actually really fun.
Okay, Matt, I have a few questions for you because you flew through that, and
I have a lot of games.
I have a lot of questions I need to ask you though before we get too crazy. So going back to Uncharted, so you played the DLC.
Yes.
Tell me, I know I've heard and I've seen it's a lot more of the open world. Is the open world avoidable, or can you just plow right through it? Is there a point to the open world?
In the open world, you do have to complete tasks in the open world in order to move forward, and they are all spread out throughout that open world. And then there is some side stuff sprinkled in there that you can do, but in order to move forward in the game, you pretty much have to explore that open world.
So how did you like the open world then to it?
I mean, the game is, which we're going to get into with graphics, the game is gorgeous. Like, one of the best games I've ever seen. I know, and Uncharted 4 was the same way. It's just an amazing looking game. So that helped because I had felt more immersed in the game. There's all these little tiny details that they always throw in there. And they always have that little banter between the characters when they're driving in the Jeep, like talking about things that they just passed while driving, or if you get out of the Jeep and come back in, they'll talk about what you just did when you got out of the Jeep. So really kind of smart, cool little details like that.
They did that though in Uncharted 4.
They did do it in Uncharted 4, but it's still cool. I don't find it dated one bit. But it's a really cool little feature that keeps you immersed in it. It can be a little maybe slow for some people because it is just driving to different locations and then completing whatever you have to do at that location and then moving on kind of to somewhere else. But you can attack it in any way you want, which makes it a little more, you can be a little more creative with it. But it doesn't last like that the whole game. It's not a spoiler. So it is something that you get through. And then to me, I felt like the game picked up more after you finish that open area section.
Okay, and then my last question for people who are thinking about picking this up or not really sure where it falls into the Uncharted lore here, is there a direct correlation between, without any spoilers obviously, but if you were to play Uncharted 4, and would there be a direct, like, hey, like this is making sense now connecting to Uncharted 4 in this DLC, or is it a whole offshoot?
It's a complete offshoot. The only thing, there's only maybe some minor things that you might pick up if you've played Uncharted 4. But if you haven't played Uncharted 4, it won't ruin your experience at all.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Then let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and just go talk a little bit about the games I've been playing. So from the last check-in, I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I still am, but here's the thing with Horizon Zero Dawn. I absolutely adore this game. I love it. It's awesome. But I've gotten to a point where I did pretty much all the side missions. I've gotten up to all the main quests, and I'm up to the final mission, and I've been holding off on doing the final mission, but now I'm to a point where, Matt, and you know what I'm talking about, the travel packs. You cannot fast travel as much as you want. You have to have a pack, and in order to have these packs, you have to craft them. But in order to craft the packs, you have to have a certain amount of animal meat and animal bones and other resources. Like, you need all these resources, which is fine. But when I want to do all the side quests, I'm fast traveling left and right and back and forth, where I run out of these travel packs, and I'm like, if I want to keep doing side missions, now I got to go hunting for a half hour to find more resources. And it just got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm calling it. Like, next time I play, I'm doing the final mission. I just haven't gotten around to it. But other than that, like, I love the game, and we'll talk about that in more depth of a review a couple weeks. But yeah, that game is amazing. Besides that fast travel aspect to it, where
Yeah.
now I've probably played at least 15 hours of extra content in that game outside of the main quest. So that's a win. The other game obviously I've been playing is Madden with Dave in our online league. I haven't really been playing offline at all, just mostly in our online. And the last game I just recently picked up is This Is the Police, which is so what happened. The reason I picked this game up is because I was in GameStop and I'm just walking around killing some time, and I like just looking through the games and being like, what if I picked up this game right now? Like, what would I like it? Would I not like? Because remember back when we were kids, where we'd go in Toys R Us or Best Buy or somewhere, and you just kind of look at
Blockbuster? Going to Blockbuster.
Yeah, true.
Right? Checking the shelves. Yeah.
And then, like, you just kind of pick up a box, look at it, and be like, oh, that looks kind of fun. And then you try it out, and oh my God, this game's awesome. That's kind of what I did with This Is the Police. I just walked around, and I saw it sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this game a shot. And so I did. And what it is, it's basically a sim game, like a Sim City almost, but you are a police chief, and you have to just, like, manage your officers. So, like, you'll basically be a dispatcher for a little bit where the calls will come in and you have to tell people, hey, go here, go there. And then sometimes policemen will die. Sometimes other outcomes, you have to help the mafia. You don't have to help the mafia. Like, there's just a lot of outcomes, and you're basically like a manager of all these guys just making decisions. So it's kind of fun. I'm really into it. It's got that addictive style for me, though, where it's got that day-to-day style where it's like, oh, I'll just play the next day and then see what happens. And then the day's over, and I'm like, you know what, I got to see what happens now in the next day because I want to try to build this guy up. And, it's just one of those progressions. Like
one more day.
Yeah, like a Persona type of thing where you're kind of just like going day to day. And I love that day-to-day style. So that's basically what I've been playing. I plan on finishing Horizon very soon. And one more thing about Horizon. Matt, I am absolutely convinced that, because you played Zelda after Horizon, right? Or no, you played Zelda before Horizon, correct?
I think they were definitely right around each other.
They came out a week apart. I'm pretty sure you played Zelda first and then you played Horizon. I'm convinced that you didn't like Horizon because of Zelda. I'm absolutely conviined.
It's very possible.
All the evidence is pointing towards it because everything I hear, people who played Horizon first people who play Horizon first before Zelda love Horizon, but the other way around, they don't like Horizon. They think it's like, this is no Zelda, and then kind of get turned off. Yeah, like
Zelda's just way too good.
Zelda ruined all open world RPGs until just like take a break from the whole genre in itself.
I had some open world fatigue at that point as well. Yeah, so
I am absolutely convinced that's what happened. Like if you took like a year and waited and then played Horizon, I think you'd appreciate it a little bit more because it does some special things that.
I think so.
And rightfully so. It should be overlooked by Zelda, but it's still a really great game on its own, like without Zelda in the picture.
Yeah.
All right, so that's everything I'm playing. Dave, what about you?
Mainly just Candy Crush. I mean, hours and hours and hours of Candy Crush. I'm on the level where you got the little colored balls with the other balls, and you crush them, and just absolutely fantastic.
Sounds good.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I've been playing NBA 2K18 and Live 18 because we talked about that on a previous podcast. I pre-ordered both of those. Jury's still out. I'm not going to make a final decision until Connor and I have our definitive sit for 4 hours and play both games back to back against each other constantly. But both games are really, really good. If you bought Live 18 instead of 2K18, you don't really have too much to worry about. It's still a really good game. Madden 18, like Connor said, we're in that league. Like Matt, I randomly, without planning to, bought Destiny 2. And it turns out that is probably my favorite game right now out of the games that I'm playing because it's just, I'm so obsessed with the loot. It's unreal. Like, and the story actually exists. And the characters. Okay, so Destiny 1 went from no story, no characters that I could follow to having, like, there's one character who's just, like, the funniest, like, quirkiest, in a non-cheesy way, like, awesome character that just entertains me. So I won't give any spoilers away, but... And then finally...
Is the voice actor someone in particular?
I think it is a famous person, because when he talks, I'm like, this sounds...
I feel like I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the voice actor, but I want to say that there's a popular voice actor or an actual celebrity who actually does it.
Yeah, well, I'll let the viewers listen or play the game a little bit more before I talk more in detail about it. But I'm sure Matt and I will co-op review that at some point. But and then the last game is I picked up the StarCraft 1 remaster, which is not a new game technically. It's StarCraft, It's the first StarCraft, and nothing gameplay-wise has changed. It's only a graphical update in the inclusion now of a matchmaking system. That being said, unless you live in Korea, the pickings are slim for online play. The famous Korean fish server is jam-packed. It might even be more popular than StarCraft 2 in Japan or Korea right now. But as far as the United States are concerned, you might as well pick up StarCraft 2 instead, because unless you want to play solo or you got some buddies that you're playing against computers, like, you will not find anybody your skill level to play, because only the people who were obsessed with that game back in the day bought the remaster, and they just will crush your soul online. So,
well, since you mentioned 2K18, I just want to talk about that real quick on the Switch, because I've played a lot of 2K on console, and like Matt said, he got it on the Switch, and I was over at his house over the weekend, so I got my hands on that, and we played quite a bit. But my initial impressions, and I don't want to give any sort of like, I don't think it's good, I don't think it's bad, but I just want to say what I experienced, and then once I play it on the console at Dave's on PS, or no, he got it on Xbox One, and then I'll be able to directly compare. But my initial reaction to NBA 2K18 on Switch was it was slow and seemed almost laggy. That was my initial, like, okay, what is happening right now? Like, after the tip-off and we were running down court, like, my players felt really slow. I felt like there was a lag in passing or something. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel super smooth, but I don't know if I just got used to it or it went away. Like, I don't know what the case was, but that was my initial reaction. So that's definitely what I'm going to be looking at when I play 2K18 on the Xbox One at Dave's.
Well, there are hiccups. NBA Live is hands down, presentation wise, a better game than 2K18. I can say that right now. Live is silky, buttery smooth. The frame rate, I feel like, has never dropped ever in any situation, whereas 2K has had a couple of those things happen. And if the animations themselves were better in NBA Live, like, they could make a push. But
see, that's what I'm talking about. That I don't know if it was a Switch or a 2K thing that I was noticing. That's why I don't want to make any judgments on the Switch. I don't want to make any judgments about 2K before I know, like, what is happening here with this lag.
I think we have to remember too, because I think didn't 2K just officially come out? Because me and Dave, we pre-ordered it, but it let you play it days before it actually came out.
Oh, that's true, because the pre-order you got to play early, so mine unlocked on like the 15th.
Right, so they still could be working on patches or addressing any bugs that might be there, but I guess we'll see.
So yeah, we've been playing quite a bit here, so let's go ahead and jump into our review for the day, which is Diablo 3. Matt, tell us a little bit about Diablo 3.
Okay, so Diablo 3 is marketed as a hack and slash action role-playing video game, which we talked about RPGs on last episode. So that's their definition for this game. It's developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment. So they're the same company that brought you Overwatch, StarCraft, World of Warcraft, those games. It was originally released for PC and Mac in 2012, and then later came out on PlayStation 3 and 360 in 2013, and then finally to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One August of 2014.
Okay, so so Diablo. I don't want to say too much. I'll get into what I got to say about the game, but Dave, what are some things that you liked about Diablo 3?
I mean, Diablo 3, okay, so Blizzard has a reputation of creating only the finest games, and Diablo 3 is a really good example of that. They've never disappointed in terms of, like, improvement. Like, Diablo 2 to Diablo 3, you can tell the difference between those two games. Some series, you can't really tell the difference, but Blizzard always puts that extra care in. The loot system is deep, like deep. The loot system is deep, and I love just running around hacking those trolls up. Oh my gosh, running around with the coin bags, and you hit them, and you're like, "Give me the coins, troll!" And you could do that for hours and hours, just looking for these trolls. There's tons to do after the story is done, like. Our buddy Tony and we started playing an entire different mode in the game after we both finished the campaign, which, by the way, he decided to play without me. But the co-op is a ton of fun. The DLC is done right. the DLC that I downloaded. I got new characters and a whole new, brand new story. It felt like a brand new like add-on to the game. I guess kind of probably how you felt with help me out here, Uncharted. Yeah. It's like that's DLC done right. You feel like you just purchased a brand new game. I like that you can gift loot to people because without mentioning names, there's a game that rhymes with the Manision, and it's created by
we don't talk about that game
company. Here. It's created by a horrible company with terrible morals, and I wouldn't be surprised if they abuse their workers. But there is gifting of loot in Diablo, so if you get something cool, you can share it with a friend. And
I heard if you say the name of that game 3 times, the devil appears.
I heard if you say the name of that game 3 times, all the electronics in your house blow up like they're servers.
You can't connect to anything.
You can't connect to anything. Yeah, your cell phone just like, why can't I text people? I must have said it 3 times. I didn't even realize it. But no, they're very nice graphics, totally polished. I mean, it's Blizzard. Yeah, it's Blizzard. I love Blizzard, man.
So Matt, what are some things that Dave didn't mention that you liked about Diablo 3?
I mean, I think he probably touched on a little bit, but with the combat, there is a lot of depth to the combat. So to the naked eye, if you're just watching someone play Diablo, it kind of just looks, because the game is a hack and slash type game, so it looks like they're just swinging their sword, like running around killing bad guys. But in general, yes, that's what you're doing, but there's different abilities that each character has. So there's all these different classes of characters in the game, and then there's a skill tree that you unlock as you level up. So you unlock new abilities, but then within those abilities, there's a thing called runes, which those runes then allow you to have different power-ups for those abilities. So it's a pretty in-depth way of helping you to really shape your character the way that you want it, combat style. So if everyone was like a barbarian, there would still be a lot of variation in what kind of combat they're using because of the abilities that they choose to use with which runes they decide to put on those abilities. So, and then like Dave said, the game is probably almost more fun after you beat it, because what a lot of people do is they either go back on a harder difficulty, or like he was saying, go into these different kind of challenge modes, and you just are at that point, you're just fighting for loot. So you're just trying to get the next best thing. And that's what I can't go without saying it. The loot is so addicting, where you just want to see, what can I get next? What can I keep leveling up? What can I keep powering up? And then going to like the blacksmith or something, trying to create something cool for yourself. Then you go back and fight, and then you open up a chest and something's better than what you just created, and you're like, this is awesome. And then you just want to keep playing forever.
Okay, so
and then you see people online. I'm sorry, Connor. What you're about to say is going to make me upset. So I'm going to say this first before I get upset. You look online too, and you see these people with like this amazing, awesome, epic gear. Like I saw someone with like angel wings, and I'm like, how do I get my barbarian to look like a massive, muscular angel with a giant beard, just tearing people apart? Like, I love the game. It's so. The loot is so good. Go ahead, Connor.
Do you guys remember when Hogan was part of the WCW and he turned on them and joined the NWO, and it was like a big heel turn? Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm joining the NWO and making a huge heel turn. Here's Hogan's heel turn right now. Here's what I'm throwing at you. Diablo 3. I was forced to buy this game because Dave and Tony. I don't know, Matt. You weren't part of this, right? Did we play with you? I can't. Did all 4 of us?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Tony pressured you to get it.
You and Tony played a lot.
Oh,
Tony pressured you.
Dave didn't play or something. I can't remember, but I
had finished months earlier. Go ahead.
I got this game with high hopes. I liked Ultimate Alliance. It had the same style, but not comic books. So I'm playing Diablo. All it is hitting buttons. That's all it is. You're just hitting buttons. It does not matter what button you hit, what order you hit the buttons. You're just hitting buttons. And this loot you speak of is just I don't care about the loot. I don't at all. The game is not fun. And that's what it all comes down to. When you're looking at a game and you're playing a game and you're asking yourself, am I having a good time? If you're playing Diablo 3, the answer is no. because you're just sitting there just hitting buttons.
Answer's no.
Remember how we
any listeners, please do not listen to these comments right
Remember
now.
all the
There's a lot of hate going on here.
Oh, hold on, let's increase the difficulty. That will change it. Oh yeah, this is getting a lot more fun. What are we on? Like extreme legendary? Let's keep mashing the buttons. And then Tony has the gall to say, I'm like, Tony, there's no reason, there's no reason or rhyme of why I'm hitting a certain button. He's like, no, I like to hit the stun attack and then do the hit the A attack. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You're just hitting the buttons. It does not matter at all. So that's all I have to say about Diablo. I don't like it.
That's all we need. That's all we need.
As one man's opinion.
Can you tell me something you did like about it? Can you just give it one compliment?
Here's the compliment about it.
Okay, I'm all ears. Come on.
It was done very, very well. I could see that kind of game being awesome for what it does. It just did not mesh with me.
Do it for you. Okay.
It was just not a connection. I felt very bored. Even playing with my best friends, I was bored. And that's a problem. If I'm bored playing a game with 3 other very close friends and we're just goofing around and I'm still in a state of, I'm not even looking at the TV screen while I'm playing, I'm bored. And I'm sorry. The game's not fun. But for what it does, it's doing it very, very well. A boring button masher. And so if that's the kind of game you're into, then... So we should
have had you speak first so that we could end on our positive.
Now you guys end it. Now you finish it off with your overalls, because now I gave my overall rating, and I'm gonna spot it a 5 because everything is done very well. It's very smooth. I have no complaints outside of just the boring style of it. So it's a 5 for me. Somebody talk.
If Diablo gave you a rating, it would be a 5 too. So
good.
Anyway, no, I know that I think Matt gave it the highest rating out of 3 of us. So we'll build up here. I gave Diablo an 8 because what Connor says, I'm gonna give him Hogan over here. The one thing that he said that would make a little bit of sense in a certain context I'm about to give you is that it could get boring. And the reason it would get boring is if you had nobody else to play with and you were playing single player, nobody else to play with, you got all of your loot, nobody else cares about your loot because no one else wants to, play the game with you. So no one's going to see this awesome loot that you got. So you're just sitting there staring at loot that you got that nobody else in the world will see. And at that point, it could get a little boring. So I can't give it a 9 or a 10, even though mechanically it could very well be a 9 or a 10, just because I feel like, just like with Destiny 2, I feel like I would never play that game by myself. If I didn't know anyone else with Destiny 2, I'd be like, oh, Destiny 2, I'm definitely not playing that game. But because I know so many people who play it, it just makes it that much better. So campaign's awesome for the first time through. The extra stuff's amazing with friends. I would give it an 8.
Okay. Matt?
All right, I was 1 up. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Same reasons as Dave. This is one of those games where I sat down. I got it on PC when it came out. I sat down, mouse and keyboard, and blinked, and it was 3 hours later. And it's just that type of game where you're so wrapped up in it. And I think because Connor got bored, because we know Connor's into the challenging kind of combat games like Dark Souls and things like that. So he came off of Dark Souls coming into Diablo, where yes, if you're with friends and you guys are all powered up, it's a very simple game. You do kind of just run through people. But that was kind of cool for me because it's kind of one of those mindless entertaining games where it's not even so much as about, oh man, this was a really easy fight that I just got through. It's more about how can I make my character stronger and better and make him look more awesome. And that's what dragged me into it.
Yeah, so final remarks on it is that, like I said, I like Ultimate Alliance and it's the exact same game style, but the only difference is the skin, where Ultimate Alliance is comic book characters, and that just connected so much more to me, where I'm playing as Spider-Man, I'm playing as Gambit, I'm playing as Iron Man, where doing those just mindless hitting the buttons was fun to me, because I'm playing as comic book characters and fighting other comic book characters that I like, so that's the connection I did not make, and everybody has that game in their life that they just don't like and they just hate. Like Dave with GTA and me with Diablo. Matt, I don't know what game you hate, but I'm sure there's one in there somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
But
you know what, though? To what you're saying, though, if they completely replace GTA's skin with Dragon Ball Z and replaced all the terrible controls with like good controls, GTA would be a great game.
There you go. See? Boom. Just like that. So,
Just that.
Just like that.
Just like
That's
that.
That's all you need.
So yeah, that's Diablo 3. These guys have a much better opinion on it, but that's just me. This is one man's opinion. So let's go ahead and jump into our discussion. We'll keep our discussion rather short today. I know the Around the Horn and Diablo was a little bit on the longer side. So our discussion is, how important is graphics? We have a pretty wide range of opinions here on the LAN Partners Podcast about graphics. I'll start off by giving my opinion on graphics, and to me, and I have plenty of evidence to back this up. To me, graphics isn't the reason that I enjoy games or the reason I don't enjoy games. And what I mean by that is, if I'm playing like a bad game or an okay game, I'm not gonna say like, no, I'm going to keep playing this game because these graphics are really bringing me in. Like, these graphics are awesome. Like, it doesn't do that for me. And I know some people it might, where playing a game where it's just visually stunning will help you through maybe a boring or kind of okay game. But for me, it doesn't do it. And the other way around, like, a really, really good game doesn't make it worse because of the graphics. And I'm going to use the example of Kingdom Hearts. I'm not saying that game's really, really good or anything. It was good to me, but dealing with those PS2-ish graphics didn't make it like, oh, this is brutal. Like, Mickey looks like a giant box. It didn't do that to me, and I didn't mind the graphics as much. So that's kind of where I stand, and I'll see what you guys have to say and chime in more as you go along. So, Dave, where do you stand on graphics and how important they are?
It's kind of funny. We're doing this whole like building up thing every time with this episode. It's like builds up. I think that graphics are more important to me than to Connor, and when I think of graphics, I think Connor and Connor, I could be wrong here, but I think when you think of graphics, you're thinking like photorealism. I heard you say like blocky characters, whatever, things like that. I see graphics as purely like an art form. So you could say like, okay, Dave, what has better graphics, NBA 2K18 or NBA Live 18? And I'll say, well, both have amazing graphics, but 2K tends to like purposely go a little more cartoony, a little more like exaggerated features, whereas NBA Live is going for photorealism. Do I think one's better than the other? Not really, because there is no game that's going for like that cartoony / photorealism of 2K, and there's not another photorealistic, hands down, like NBA Live game. Just like I couldn't compare Zelda Breath of the Wild to the original Zelda and say that graphics really play a big part. But I have a feeling, kind of like Matt's going to get into, graphics in some games really does matter. If the developer makes that one of the selling points, then they have to deliver. And some games deliver so well in graphics that you do kind of ignore when the gameplay isn't so great, because the developer never intended for the gameplay to be better than Dark Souls. They just wanted you to look at this game and think, holy cow, how did those pixels get into that shape onto that screen? Like, this is amazing. I'm blown away. And I think that, you've got your extremes. Like Connor was saying, you can have a pixel game that has amazing gameplay created in 2017, but then you can have a beautiful, absolutely stunning, gorgeous Marvel masterpiece. And if the gameplay is not groundbreaking, it doesn't matter, because it's just a treat for your eyes, and you want to just keep looking at it and keep watching it. So, I could see both sides to that. I'm kind of on both sides.
Yeah, Matt, what about you?
So, like Dave said, he finds a little bit more value than you, Connor, in graphics, and then I'll top it off and say I think I find the most value out of the LAN partners here in graphics. Ever since I can remember, I don't know what it was. It was just always in interest of mine to see where they could push things visually with games. And I think as I was growing up, I didn't care as much when I was like really little, but then as I was growing up and start to understand kind of what they could do with graphics and where things were heading, that's when it really hooked me in. And I remember specifically, it's hard for me to think about graphics in video games without thinking of this game called Crysis, which came out on PC. And that game had like extremely leading technology in the industry at that time. It came out, and this is unheard of today, it came out on PC when a graphics card wasn't created yet that could run the game at full settings. So that's how ahead of its time it was for consumers. And I remember just being so obsessed with watching like gameplay because I could never have a computer that was good enough to play it. And then just as I went on now, it's still a big thing to me. I have a pretty beefed up PC now. So it is important to me. I think it always immerses me in the games more. Not that, and like I'll agree with you, Connor, it doesn't make a game bad or good, but I think it enhances a really good game because now I feel totally immersed in the game. Like Breath of the Wild game is just beautiful.
Oh,
So it's just
nice looking.
It just, yeah, you're like, I want to see what's over there because that looks amazing over there. And then on the other side of that, a game like a scary game, a horror game that's made in like 2D pixels will never be as scary as a fully photorealistic 3D game because you actually feel like you're in that environment. So graphics can play a big part, and it's something that it always interests me. I go back and play Crysis sometimes just to like still look at it and say, wow, like this game still holds up, still looks good. And it came out, I think, in like 2007. So it's amazing to me, and I always feel very immersed in those games, and it's always good to see them push the envelope.
Yeah, and I think you hit a lot on that. But here's my thing with graphics. Like, I stand on the side of, like, I really don't care. It's not like I don't appreciate graphics. It's not like I knock graphics. I just don't care. Like, if the core gameplay is there, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll talk about Kingdom Hearts again. Like, when I did a lot of Kingdom Hearts streams, like, you guys just ripped Kingdom Hearts about the graphics. Like, you just could not get past the back. To me, I was looking at it like, oh, I don't care. Like, this is fun. Like, I'm having a good time. Like, I don't...
Yeah,
I'm still enjoying this. It's not.
It's like an eye thing.
It's not hindering my experience at all to be looking at these PS2, PS3 era graphics on a PS4. Like, it did not bother me whatsoever. I mean, would have been nice if it looked like Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know if anyone's seen the Toy Story comparisons from the Toy Story world in Kingdom Hearts 3 compared to the movie. The Kingdom Hearts 3 looks better than the movie. And like, that's exciting. Like, that's going to be cool looking. But again, like, it's just not something that I'm like, oh, I got to see this. Like, this is going to be sweet. Like, it's not, the graphics do not bring me into a game, nor does it take me out of a game like it does for you guys sometimes.
I'll put this into perspective. I remember we were playing some game, Connor, and I remember saying, man, this game looks really good. And then you kind of hesitated, and then you were like, oh yeah, I guess it does look pretty good. But that's how it is. It's like an afterthought to you.
Yeah, like,
you know?
I don't even notice. Like, I'm just, what's the gameplay?
It's like a miniature, I guess, final word if we're gonna move on after this. But I'm gonna talk to Matt directly here because he's my fellow PC comrade, and I think that Matt and I would both agree that a beautiful looking game is great to have, but there is no replacing a beautiful running game. A game that it has a constant frame rate, a high constant frame rate, might not have as pretty, shaders and details and post-processing things going on, but it will end up looking better because you won't notice imperfections in movements or in things like that. So I think that, like, I mean, I don't know if I would consider it graphics. Maybe I would. But I think that to maybe even more important than good graphics is just a game that runs well. Because if you have a game that looks fantastic like Crysis, but it's running at 20 frames a second and you're getting frame drops down to 8, it doesn't matter how nice that game looks because you're going to be so frustrated with it. What
do you guys think the best graphical game is right now to this day?
Oh.
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I think like Witcher 3 looks amazing on PC.
How many frames per second does it go in at on a PC?
Oh, PC is usually unlocked.
You can hit. Yeah, you can
go as many as you want.
As high as good as your computer is how far it can go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Witcher 3 looks real good. The consoles, I would argue, Uncharted, man. That game looks really, really good. Yeah, and it runs as solid. I want to say it's above 30 frames per second. I think it's running pretty solid.
Tomb Raider impressed me, but I think that racing games and games that
those games are really good.
They usually look really nice because there's not I mean they're creating non-human things, and that's easier to make look photorealistic than it is to make human skin and eyes, and you got the whole Uncanny Valley going for you. So
let's say hypothetically there was a game that came out that looks way better than any other game that we've seen to this day, better than Witcher, better than a racing game, but there was a slight, just every 10, 15 minutes, there was just this slight little
Like a hiccup.
Yeah, little hiccup where it's just like why is it doing that? And
Yeah.
would that annoy you to the point where you're like, let's take it down a little bit, let's go back to the Witcher 3 realm and pick up this smoothness? What would you react to that?
I think it would, because it would get annoying. Because like you said, it always comes down to the gameplay. So the graphics is just an enhancement. It's an immersion feeling. So if it's hitting a hitch or a hiccup every 5 or 10 minutes, that's taking away your gameplay experience. So and you're losing that immersion because you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing a video game. You know, it kind of like reminds you that you're not experiencing this like flawless thing that you just thought you were experiencing.
Well, I think it depends on what setting you're in. I think that I could get over it if it were a single player game that like the hiccup doesn't really have a whole lot to do with, my succeeding or failing at a certain part of the game. But absolutely not for anything competitive that you need to be like, unless everybody's lagging on the same part, if it's a network thing, okay. But if it's like your computer can't run it, you are at such a disadvantage to somebody who has, a beefy PC like Matt, who's running this thing at 150 frames a second, flawless, without any dips. If you're running it at 20 and you're dipping to 8 and you guys get into an encounter, if you're playing, a shooting game, he's got a major advantage on you. It's not at that point, it's not even worth playing the game. That's when you go back and say, all right, I'm going to load up Counter-Strike 1.6 again, because when I turn a corner, the one-to-one person being there is actually, there's no ghosting of hitboxes or anything like that. So,
yeah, and I think too, one more thought about NBA 2K18 on Switch is I think that 2K18 is really pushing the Switch to the limits. Because Matt, when we were playing, like, how many graphical errors did we see? Like 10 at least, where players on the bench would just disappear, then reappear. Arms would go through. Like, it was mostly the bench. It never happened on the court, but on the bench.
Oh, you got David Blaine on your team too? Nice.
Yeah, and then people would, players would lift up their arms on the bench, and then it would go through the coach's head. And at one time, Matt's player was sitting in the locker room, and instead of rendering one towel, the whole entire locker was filled with towels. And it was just, you could tell that it wasn't right. It was just he was staring at a bunch of towels. So,
because it switched out and then the towels were gone.
Yeah.
How do you know he wasn't just a really sweaty guy and he just
needed a bunch of towels? So I think things like that, I know they're going to patch it, but things like that, it's like, come on, this is...
Right. How does it make it out the door?
Yeah, this is pretty bad right now. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to one news story about the Switch. Dave, what is going on with the Switch this month of August? Last month of August, actually.
So Switch, again, is leading game sales. Not game sales, but hardware sales. So even having... what I believe in August was still limited supply, it's still right now outselling, Xbox One family and PlayStation 4 family, which is something that I think a lot of people were real concerned about Nintendo when the Switch got announced. I know their stock dropped and everything, and this just goes to show, man, they stuck to their guns. They marketed that thing, well. Props to Nintendo for actually marketing something well. And right now, there's a slow, like Connor turned heel and went NWO, and his boys at Sony are doing the same thing right now. Sony's starting to look super heel, and Nintendo's starting to turn babyface. Sony's turning to the Roman Reigns of console wars. Yeah, you want to love it so much because it's being pushed so hard, but refusing to do crossplay. Releasing an upgraded PS4 Pro that isn't even considered an upgrade when you look at the jump from Xbox One to Xbox One X. I don't know. I guess it depends on who you are and what kind of fanboyship you have, but I have no love for really any particular console, and I'm calling it like I see it, man. They're taking the heel throne from Nintendo big time.
I'm starting to get that the Switch bug. Some came over me. Where I'm just starting to I go into stores. I'm always looking, the Switch is still there. Let me go.
Dude, it's at such a good price. It's so hard to pass up.
It's like Disney. There's a little magic in it.
I'm gonna walk to the end of the store, and if I come back and it's still there, then I'll buy it.
Okay, I'll get it. All right. You're making little deals with yourself.
It's starting to get to that point. If I flip this coin.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to get to that point, and I don't know how much longer I could hold out, but Switch is getting tempting. So
this Ubisoft game frame rate drops one more time.
Yeah.
I'm getting the Switch.
If I lose connection,
Oh, there we
one more
go.
time.
Yeah. If I get kicked from the server one more time, I'm going to buy that Switch.
call that one. All right, so let's get into our list for the day. So our list was top 3 PS. I keep on saying PS. PC exclusive games.
Yes.
I don't
yes.
even know how to say the word PC without having to say PlayStation. That's how foreign the PC is to me. So I'm just going to start us off because who really cares about my PC list? Number
come on.
3 is StarCraft for me. I like StarCraft a lot.
Hey, good
The
boy.
only thing I'll say about StarCraft is I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. I just don't like the way it's played competitively, where it's just a big, what do you call it? Like, Dave, what's the word I'm looking for? The RPMs. What? They're not the RPMs. Like the
EPMs?
the commands per
clicks?
minute or something. Or
Oh yeah, like a
Yeah, actions per
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
actions per minute.
actions per minute. Yeah.
I don't like how that's like the leading stat in how to play StarCraft. That's just I think
Yeah.
the overall play of it's a lot of fun, and I'll talk about a game that I think is a lot more fun for me and my number 1 that has the same kind of style. But Matt, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is actually what I talked about earlier with Crisis. So I know before people freak out, it did come out on console, but it came out on console 4 years after it was on PC. So to me, it was a PC exclusive because that's when I got it. And just it's like a pretty big nostalgia factor. It's a really great game still today, but it's more of a nostalgia factor.
Dave?
My number 3 is Dota 2, and it's, I don't think I have to explain Dota 2. If you haven't heard of Dota 2, you probably don't play video games, so it's Dota 2.
It's Dota 2.
All right, so my number 2 is the Age of Empires series. I liked those games a lot when I was a kid.
Uh-oh.
Dave's not a big fan, but I liked them a lot. That's all I really have to say about
We've
Age
had
of
enough heel
Empires.
turns for one episode.
I did listen to an interview, though, with the creator of Age of Empires because Age of Empires 4 is coming out. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Age of Empires 4 is made by a completely different company. Did you guys know that?
Oh, is it really?
No,
I
it's
didn't know
not
that.
even
Okay.
made by
I
the
didn't know
same
that.
people who made 1 through 3. It's a completely new development.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so who knows what they'll do with it. So,
Yeah.
Matt, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is World of Warcraft, or WoW.
Wow.
I put more hours than I would ever care to actually admit into this game.
How many, Matt?
Play.
Please share.
I can't even tell you.
It's probably
Let's just
not
say he
as
needs 2 calculator screens.
Yeah, there you go. Used to play it all the time. Cool, just quick backstory. Me and my brothers would always play, like on a Christmas break from school, because we'd get a lot of time to be able to like sit down and play together. So that was a cool little memory for that game.
nice. Dave, your number 2?
I'm kind of with Matt here and you because you mentioned StarCraft and that also came to console at one point. But my number 2 is Counter-Strike, and I know that came to console, but the console version got no updates from vanilla, and I would argue that CS:GO is a completely different game, like down to the hitboxes got changed. So I say my number 2 is Counter-Strike Go or any version of Counter-Strike, and I would argue that it does not exist anywhere on console in its current state, any of the games. Even the Condition Zero reboot for Xbox, still the PC version is far superior and is really the only way to play it. So
If you put a gun to my head right now and said, name the difference between CSGO and CS 1.6 or Source, I would not be living after that because I have no clue. I still get confused.
the one your computer can't run is CSGO.
Yeah, there you go. That's the difference right there.
They all look the same to me. So my number 1 is Total Annihilation.
Yeah,
I
knew that was
care.
coming.
What year did that game even come out? Like 95, 96, 97?
Gotta
like,
be, yeah.
somewhere around there.
76.
Yeah,
Running on DOS.
the game was awesome. It's very much like StarCraft, but that's how I played as a kid all the time. It's really not that much different, but just a different like world. But it's awesome. I love that
It was
game.
just a series of light bulbs that turn on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the original version of that game.
Okay. Matt,
it's like a flip book.
Matt, what is your number 1 PC exclusive?
My number 1, it's another split. It did come to console, but I will never admit that this was a console game. Half-Life 2, PC. You can't. It's Half-Life 2. I don't know. That's all I can say about it.
Nice.
You don't need to say anything. It's Half-Life 2, man. My number 1 is the entirety of the StarCraft series. not just because it's StarCraft, but because it technically also created my number 3, which is Dota 2, since Dota started off as a mod of StarCraft. So I'm going to say that's the only reason I'm putting StarCraft over Dota 2 is because it is the originator of Dota, and it's, I know that the pro scene is dying right now due to, whatever reason, 10-year-old game, but I love that game. And if Connor and Matt were like, hey, Dave, I know you want to go to sleep tonight, but you want to play some StarCraft instead, I'd say, yes, let me just fire it up right now. So, StarCraft. Nice.
Don't hold your breath.
I won't.
We might ask you to do that one night.
Dave, you want to turn some light bulbs on and off?
I'm down for that.
Are you talking about, what was it?
Total Annihilation.
Total Annihilation, that's right.
Dave, can you just run your computer in compatibility mode for Windows 95 real quick?
Hey, let's not knock Total Annihilation. That game was groundbreaking. All right, so let's go ahead
I think I have it on my graphing calculator. That was a good game.
Let's go ahead and close it down. This episode was episode 20, and this was my heel turn. I don't think there's another game like Diablo 3 that I will knock like that. So that's my one game that I really was waiting for an opportunity right over the plate to start knocking. So, but that's easily one of my most disliked games. But that's it. So that was my heel turn. That's my Hogan. Now I'm back to babyface. I'm John Cena.
He's back.
So we're so we're good now. We're good. All right, so that's episode 20. Let us know what you think. If there's any games we did not mention in PC exclusives, please let us know. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.